Hello, how you guys doing? Good morning. Hope you're doing well during this week. Um, I was what would draw me to make this video, and this was on my heart this morning, and I've been thinking about it a lot. And when I hear there's kind of a division in this country, and so even though there's there may not be a great majority of people, a certain percentage of people are not going to be with agreement with this video, and there's some people, or currently, some people understand that there's a problem in America, and sometimes throughout my life I had to really struggle with things when it comes to racism and prejudice, and the information I'm about to share my testimony is to show the people that I understand it very clearly and well. And one of the things is some people don't understand how depth and deep when you come across and how it a, affects a person or a people. There are some people in America, mainly, out of the majority of the population of what some people online call them folks, had never come to the complete understanding why do black people feel the way they do. Why are they feel like they're complaining? Why are they feeling like that they keep crying out? Why are they keep living in the past? Why are black people this? It seems like they not getting in their eyes are not on a moral track. Why are they seem like, and they trying to justify this? Um, and so it goes from that until okay, obviously they try to use stereotypes like maybe they're not educated. Maybe then they start. America moves on stereotypes because they live in some people live in poverty, and it's always where the focus of poverty get in that even though poverty is widespread, it's in all communities. Where the focus of there's a substance abuse, alcohol abuse, and it show that that's widespread, but they always have to use a face to to denigrate. I mentioned this in time past. Some white people use other people as a status in class, and the other races of status in class how look at others as status in class due to where they live and what was portrayed in the media on TV, and maybe they come across an individual that they see do some crime. They don't, and they access the ability that they think that they form their own opinion. But and so when you a black person don't come across like that, you already geared up to know in America it's like that. That the mainstream media, and we know who own the mainstream media. The majority that look like the people who own mainstream media tell the two sides of the story. The other groups of people do have their obstacles in certain areas and go through their prejudices. And prejudices is wrong all the way around. It's a constantly you're constantly fighting a battle, a spiritual battle, because it's something that you see with your flesh. You're trying to fight that with your flesh. And the victim that you victimizing, you're turning them into something better towards somebody that may look like that same person of the same race, and they may not have nothing to do with what the situation is. When since I was a child, I can honestly say this: I never thought about I knew people that were different, but I never saw them as a white friend. For example, I saw you as my friend. If you were Hispanic, you my friend. You just happened to be of Hispanic origin, but I had the understandability to know that, yeah, I see you as being who you are. And some people in this world that I've come across, of not just white people but other people, that they can't adjust their reality to seeing a black person because something, maybe their relative, maybe their friend, or what they encounter, what they've been told on the job, school, whatever. So it's been embedded into their life. This is what some people don't understand. So why are black people pulling back and pulling away and really trying to preserve and go to themselves? Let me tell I've been in the dinner tables of many white people. Let me turn this on. I've been at the dinner tables of many white people. I've been in the households of many white people. And then I know two sides, that not every person is like that. However, I'm gonna show you what really was the insecurity. A lot of people, some people who have never been around another culture, and it's their first time being someone someone black or something different. It's like they look at them like it's a specimen of imagination. Like they see something off of TV. It's almost like it's a fantasy world. But they don't know that the people who they associate around them, who look like them, have some inner bias and prejudice. I'm gonna give you an example. There's a neighbor of mine that's kind of, been like, we pretty much have like a little friendship going on, and I hung out with him for the last couple of years, and I had some good times, and showed me some insights on aeronautic industries and certain things that opened my mind. And I love the family because they don't have that. They have that pure love. There's some people who are like that. Really, they're long and few in between, but they really don't have that in their system. But some of the people I've saw come around them, who were white, some. Let me just repeat this, some. When first time you give people benefit of the doubt, like, okay, so you see this person, they don't really know you, and like any people, people are very reluctant to have a conversation with you or open up there. They don't really know you. But after a while, you go over there for a couple of times, you see that they don't make eye contact with you again. And it's like, okay, what's going, it's okay, there's obviously this person. And one time, the family members, they would go down and go swim, particularly Bob, my friend Bob, his sister would go down, and they go down to the man's house and swim at his pool. And they said, James, if you got some shorts, you come down, Fred don't mind if you come down, you come down and swim with us. And I'm like, to get in that water now, I don't feel like it. Because when Fred would come up and I would see Fred, he never made no eye contact. And one day, Fred came to, one day Fred had a conversation with the family, one of the family members of Bob's family. And Bob's family member, one of his brother-in-law told me something, that we was sitting at the dinner table, and we had a good time, and he told me about his neighbor Fred, out of the blue, and I'm like, he really don't want to associate when he come down there and talk to that guy. And I don't know what brought up in the conversation, but I was like, what's going on, you know? So Brandon tells me that Fred made some innuendo situation about a guy that would come over there that he come across, and they would open up about the guy being a Muslim and being black. And he said it turned him off completely, the conversation. And I was like, wow. So I said, what I said, Brandon, and I told his wife, I said, the one time when Molly's grandmother died, some extended relatives came over to the house, and I had me and my friend Pauline came over to sit down and talk with the people and have condolences. And we could start have the conversation after the bereavement and after what went on. And it was a sad occasion that how she was an older woman, and we went to went to the wake, and we went to the funeral. But these people who didn't like black people, when we went back to the house, they sat in the other room with their baby the whole time. And so one of the relatives come in and had a conversation, and talking about his job and talking about his work. He started going in, and all of a sudden he started saying about how intelligent he is, and that between how white, I have more intelligence than white and black. And out of the blue, we're looking like, what the heck this conversation coming from? And this is what I told Brandon. He just shocked. He just shook his head. He just like. And the reason why I mention this, because what this discussion, this racial stuff, and I'm letting some people know that as black people, we understand things, because the truth is going to eventually come out. I've been through this most of my life, and this is not the one go around. I've been in some white people's homes, and they have slipped up and said the N-word, and I just felt comfortable. And then all of a sudden, so you start looking at it in a different light, because you think people are just respecting people who they are, but some people among their people is scared to say something, and won't check them and won't correct them, and that they it's crazy. That was one incident. When I was away at college one time, and my roommates, in Nelsonville, Ohio, at that time, it's called Hawking College. They had all the international and black students on one floor, and we were on the third floor. White students on the second floor, some on the first floor. One of those kind of deals. But and in my room, of course, there was not enough room on the third floor for me to go. So I had a pretty good. So I stayed with some roommates that were white. Now, and when you be around some white people in college, it's a whole, and you're the only one. I wasn't trying to be a token Negro, in other words. I had no choice, and so I got to know them, and you can tell that there are some white people that never been around black people. I've heard them say this, and so they try to put a name on me, when joking around and calling me dark meat. I didn't respond. I should have stepped in and stopped it right there, but I said, hey, people just joking around, da 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 da. But wow, when you sit down and really think about it, it's like it's like an insult. Like I said, I know I'm classified as black, but I'm not dark meat. Dark is black, like dark as this. But yeah, and there was sometimes there was some little incidents. It wasn't too bad, but it's like this is how I know about things. And I don't know why I subjected myself to being around individuals like that. Because like you here, maybe it's because I grew up in a Catholic church, and my mom growing up, we went to CCD, and I'm not one of the only black kids there. I'm kind of nice, but I'm reserved. But they don't. These white kids didn't really want to be in my presence, and I would see that. I would pick up on that. Because like they want to be around their own, and they were kind of snotty because they have a certain setting, and maybe I was one of the kind of people I just, hey, maybe and they want to be my friend and want to associate. Well, being a part of association is like you're being initiation with them, because they're not used to being around someone who's black. And they will give you cold. They won't really open up to you. They kind of like the words be limited conversation. This is how we know. How I know about these things. I guess I've been in towns in sundown town like Corbin, Kentucky, and it was by the grace of God. 20 years ago, I got up out of there. And people try to walk that down and say, oh, it's not like that. Oh, people are like, oh, but when you hear about the history of it, and I was down in the early 2000s, you can look at the people, they didn't even want to make eye contact. And they didn't even want, you know how some people here, if they don't like you, they acknowledge you and speak to you. But when they don't acknowledge you in your eyes and look you in the eyes, and that's the sign that they're prejudiced. They don't have to be direct with you or call you out your name. This is how we know when white people are prejudiced. That's another side of them. Even in one time when I went to a fellowship, so-called fellowship church with this house church here in Columbus, Ohio. And only how I knew because someone that was fellowshipping, it was a black woman I was fellowshipping with, and she turned out to be some totally on some other level. She introduced me to this couple that was out there in Galloway, Ohio, which is not about 5 minutes outside of Columbus. And so I go fellowshipping. You know how you fellowship in house churches and stuff like that. You eat and talk about the Lord and things, and so it seemed like she put on a face. Later on, figured out why. Then the people come in fellowship with this. They came from some part of the outskirts of Western Columbus, but they didn't like black people. And I would smile and talk with them. They would never give me eye contact. They never really want to associate. Like they just did. And so one time, they didn't think I was coming back over. This is the funny part. I come back over. They're like, I haven't been over there in a while. I walked through the door. Hey, how you doing, Eric? And how you doing? I forgot the name, Deborah. And they all stood silent, like this. And I'm like, what's going on? And the Holy Spirit rose up in me because my mind was about to go there. It's like, if they reflected some kind of prejudice at me or hatred at me, and so God asked me a question, and I said, Lord, I don't have nothing against these people. I don't have no prejudice against these people. I mean, we in fellowship talking about you. I just don't understand why it's like that. But after a while, so I kind of got away from them. But here's the funny part. God might clear me up out of it. But this small group of people went outside of Columbus, and felt with some people that they feel comfortable with, that look like them. Well, the people that comfortable look like them didn't want to fellowship with them, and they were white. They didn't even want to fellowship. They didn't want to eat their food. She said this on a. I went back. It was like a year or two later. They didn't want to fellowship. They didn't want to fellowship with them. And I laughed my butt off. To see, there you go. Because what you did to me, now it's being done back to you in the spirit. See, God knows what's going on. And see, to people that have that harboring prejudice about other people, God knows what you're doing. We know that most people don't do this as every white person, or every black, or every Latino, or every Asian person do that as a group, but it's those people that think that they get by, and you're not getting away with what you're doing. You're gonna get called out. The spotlight's gonna get on you. When you feel comfortable around your own people, talking about other different groups of people and stereotyping about other different groups of people, it's gonna come out. It's going to come out. If you that individual out there, it's going to show itself. Someone is going to like, okay, we see that one time you might make some comment, and I know how slick you do it. You don't like to see people in positions, particularly you'll make someone have to look at a basketball player like LeBron James, and black people get this. They call him the N-word behind our back because he's successful, or he's cocky and he's confident, and they just don't like. And it's the truth. They don't like confident black men or confident black women. That is very true. Like, they know who to assure themselves, and I observed this over time. So they don't say nothing in the presence, and so when I was the only one in their presence, and they just some people get comfortable, and they get in their downtime, and they get comfortable. If they have some incident with someone of a different race, a derogatory name of that race is coming out. And you got to remember, before other people understand the derogatory call somebody out of their race, white people are going to take an L on this one. You started it, the whole derogatory race. How do I know this? Because every ethnic group, some of you have made a name, whether it's Hispanics, Asians, Middle East, Arabic-speaking people, East Indians, and you call them in us. You may call it what it is. And then once you slip, if they not make the certain categories, you want to know their language and you want to know the culture, and you want when you tell one of your cohorts that this is what they are, they got a racial name for them, a derogatory name for them. America was brought up on derogatory names. We pass it down to. That's why you hear kids passing down a whole group of kids, and you'll hear somebody, adult, say when they was a kid they was called out their name because of their ethnic background, and they was the only child in class. They was an Asian, Indian, whatever, black, Hispanic. White people created this kind of space. Racist character. Even going to other countries when they was some of them was in armed services, they called people out their names. So we carry the spirit of prejudice to other people until Vietnam, Japan, different places like that, and even during time of war, black people, black Americans was been in segregated union up until like 1950, 1960. They didn't want to fight alongside each other. That's why you had stories about Tuskegee Airmen in different groups, and there were many groups like that, and the other Native American groups that you don't know about, the signal callers, Hispanics fought in it, because And this is what somebody like Donald Trump wanted, and had used Pete Hegseth to scrub that military information. This is what you, and then we see the pattern of this in different areas of life. And then now the slave movies, some people, people can look at a different lens. 12 Years a Slave, the recent movie about sinners, that how black people, how it took place in the South, and even some people, their insecurity and their prejudice rose up even in that movie. And there was a lot of truth in that movie, because some people who, I didn't watch the movie, but he said that some of the people said that actually happened. It's how some Latinos raised up saying there was no representation. The white people call it, like, why is always, and to the white people say that, why is always the victimized pain like the bad guy, being that the white guy is the bad guy? Well, that's probably happened. Look at the history. Look at the point that every time when you hear black people talk about Tulsa, Oklahoma, Rosewood, Florida, Lake Lanier, black people can come over and start no mess with white people. Black people then go around raiding through towns and then able to burn down a whole town and use shotguns and put people up in trees, and then they call trees out their name. And then it said, what? And even though that's to the past, the spirit of the descendants still carry that in their bloodline to this day, because you're still seeing some black people that have never committed no crime, that was not doing anything wrong. All of a sudden, like the two young men in Georgia, they found up in the mountains. That comes from the past. The black truck drivers that mysteriously got out there and so-called committed, illegal stuff after getting out of a truck. That don't happen, and black people know. Now we know what's going on because that came from the past. And it's like they would just select the victim. And even till this day, if you go in certain parts of this country, they telling you, do not come, if you're a black person, don't come to this part of the town, or you won't, you're going to have something happen to you. So when we tell you something like this, some of you out there, you think it's like, oh, we're complaining. And it's like, you don't even regard our feelings. Like, even an animal has feelings. You know what I'm saying? I mean, and that's what really irks us, and no one shouldn't have to keep explaining. The history is there. You can't scrub it, no matter what they do in these schools. It's all, it's going to be in the people. And the young people that hear these horrific names of someone among their peers, they're going to wonder where that came from. And someday when they come across, somebody's going to tell them the story. Well, they carry this in their spirits. How long ago? All the way back into the beginning of time. Centuries. This is why black people are tired when it comes to that area. And sometimes, we can make the argument that some people, black people, choose to do wrong. Some people have a dysfunction like any other people have a dysfunctional background. But do we label the whole people because of select individuals choose to do wrong? This is the reason why they pulling back from political parties. They pulling back, and then to have these silly people get on platforms like TikTok and other, maybe YouTube, and just I'm sick of, I don't know why the black people, why are you always on your mind, rent, like they say, rent free in their mind. Why you and then you think someone who is black is not going to respond with rationality and say, "Oh, listen, why are you complaining?" Then don't be around them. Separate yourself from them. If they bother you that much, don't turn the station if they're on TV. You know what I'm saying? What is about you don't understand your prejudice and racism is leading you down the wrong path, and you can't hide and absorb that stuff. Some of you who have that spirit, because you and they said, why do black people feel like they want to segregate? Okay, for the people who want to say that, imagine you were people that you thought that have told the other classes, other ethnic people that these people are the worst people to be around. They're criminally minded. They're not very educated. You might not want your kids around them. You might not even want to associate with them. And you don't think that was going to get back to us? But now when we have something, and this is what a commentator said yesterday, you want when we having a good time, you want to come around us. The same people that can't stand us want to come around us. Why you want to come around us when we're the very people you told your kids and people not to be around us? And let me say this for the record. There's other places around. You don't have to. That there's not too many of us in towns and cities in America. You can go back to one of them towns that probably need to be rebuilt back up and build your own little town, like Carroll, Illinois. And there's a riverfront and everything, because now the population dropped out of that part of Illinois. And because ain't too many black people that's left there, ain't that many now, because you done driven them out for centuries. Yeah, and you can make your commerce right because you're right next to the Ohio River down there, with Mississippi River. Why is Carroll, Illinois, is a ghost town? Well, let me tell you something. It was a sundown town, and they and it was racial injustice there. So it drew the people out, and now it has the population that's barely holding on. You did this with your insecurity, your prejudice. Some of you who that drove these people out. Every time African Americans Black Americans would try to strive, you sabotage them. Why would